And I'll call everyone's names, and you can respond with a here or present. And then is this one up here, yes?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I know Carol is not here. I'm here, present. Leilani is not. Elizabeth Pezdraw? Is that
I'm
right?
here.
Ryan Seeberger? Jeffrey Stalnick?
Yeah.
Here. Marcia? Who?
I'm here.
Is it coupe?
Coupe.
Coupe.
Yes, French.
Ah, yes.
And Thomas Roast
Is not.
is not, okay.
And no
Okay.
liaisons present? Okay, you can go to approval then.
All right, do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
I motion to approve the agenda.
Okay, second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed or abstentions? Abstentions. Okay, hearing none. Okay. Item 3 is public comment. The public comment section is for the commission to receive comments. No discussion or action may be taken on any item that is not listed on the agenda, but you may ask brief clarifying questions. Speakers will be asked to line up at the podium
Oh, just
or
stand up.
somewhere over there.
Stand up. I
And
know.
state their name and for the record. Comments are limited to no more than 3 minutes per speaker.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, are we on item 3 or item 4?
3.
Okay.
And now I'm turning it over to our actual chair. Do I?
Hello, Ms. Gavin.
Hello.
Oh, no, she's got one again.
Welcome. We didn't get very far. so-
Yeah. We just approved the agenda.
All right.
Yeah, and so right now, we're just on brief announcements from staff, commissioners, and council liaison. So our council liaison is not available today. Per our last meeting, one of the things that was requested of the commission is that we ensured that the new time day didn't have an ongoing conflict. So there's no ongoing conflict, he just wasn't available, so. And I believe Will Arnold turned out at the end of December? Anyway, I think, or not turned out, but I think he's leaving. So we may have a new liaison again soon, and we have an alternate in Councilmember Vikla, who may be then taking the place back. And he was our council liaison before, so he's very familiar with our commission, so. And as far as I can just share very briefly from staff's update, we had a district attorney's office came and presented on avoiding scams and things to be just be aware of during the holidays, tree trimming scams, financial scams, all sorts of stuff comes up. People calling, pretending to be somebody's grandchild, asking for money, please don't tell my parents, and that sort of thing. So went over that topic. I want to say we had about 7 or 8 attendees for that presentation. We always wish for more, but we're glad that the folks who did come. We have a craft fair coming up this weekend, and Thanksgiving luncheon program, and we're also in the working with HiCap and added more appointments to talk about the Medicare maze and open enrollment. So that's what's going on with the center.
Great, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
And do any commissioners have any updates or any meeting or anything that they'd like to share from out in the community? Yes, please.
I work for Agency on Aging Area 4, which is the Agency on Aging for Yolo County. And one of our projects that we do is that we build accessible gardens in senior complexes around the area. And we build about 10 of these a year. But we have one coming up this Saturday here in Davis. And so I thought I would share the information if anybody wanted to volunteer or knew anybody else who would like to volunteer.
Oh, that's
And it lets the people who live in, these are units where the apartments are subsidized, right? So it lets people grow some fresh food, which,
fantastic.
Absolutely.
if I could pass.
And I can help pass it on this side. So good.
Thank you.
One of our new programming areas is the community gardens
you.
now with Kelly Vittich, so this is really nice. Thank you.
That's great.
This is so good. All right. Anyone else from the commission have any update to share?
I don't know if this is an update. I read that strategic plan for the 48-page one.
Yeah.
that pretty much says that the system is fractured. And I think it would be probably very helpful if you get everything centralized. If you have an office that has staff that can pull all of those different
Components.
into one area, so that when somebody comes for help, they're not told, oh, okay, well, we can do this part here, but you have to go there for the other part, and then you have to go to Woodland.
One of the things actually in our agenda is unmet needs, and that might be a really good opportunity to address it, because we're talking about creating a kind of more cohesive system, and because people are dealing with these fractured
If you look at
services.
all of the different organizations,
Yeah.
there's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot to navigate.
And if you could pull it into one office where somebody can go and get all those different needs met, because they've coordinated and brought all these different components together.
Yeah.
A couple other things. The affordable housing in Davis.
And we will get to that under the unmet needs topic. I don't mean to cut you off, but because this area of the agenda is more for like announcements and updates, and I want you to not be,
These don't have the second page to the agenda, so
Oh.
we don't know what's happening after public comment.
Oh,
And
my
I know we
apologies.
should have been better prepared, but.
Oh dear. Okay, well, let me fix that. In the meantime though, students, would you guys like to, we have some members of the public, would someone like to speak to, why, you are here today visiting our Senior Citizen Commission?
We're all UC Davis students here. We're taking a class called Introduction to the Community. And so part of that is getting more involved in Davis community as Davis students, learning about different communities that are held in the city of Davis. And so we want to learn more about what you guys do and how that on the inside actually operates and what is able to be taken out of that. Both as like here as students, hearing what you guys are doing, and seeing what actually work is being done on the ground with people here in the community. So yeah, excited to know more about it.
Thank you. And then Ms. Galvin, I know you have the full commission packet and copies of that second page are coming shortly, so sorry about that. I don't know how that got printed wrong, but we are, item 3, we just finished with, updates,
Okay,
or members of the public.
so we're on item 5?
And so-
Item 4.
We just finished, brief announcements. We
Okay.
had members of the public and then brief announcements. And now we are item 5, introduction, go ahead.
So we're, introduction to short-range transit plan. Recommendation, discussion items, City of Davis and Unitrans are updating the short-range transit plan, SRTP, for 2024 through 2031 to ensure the current transit services are meeting the mobility needs of the community, including seniors. Commissioners will receive a brief overview of the plan and outreach efforts. Please welcome Jennifer DeNorfro, Senior Transportation Planner.
Thank you, Carol. Hello, Commissioners. Jennifer D'Onofrio. I work for the City of Davis, and I am the project manager for the Short Range Transit Plan. The Short Range Transit Plan was last updated in 2015, and we are in the process of updating it right now. The Short Range Transit Plan includes looking at both Unitrans, which is fixed route. They have 19 buses that operate within Unitrans. And then we're also working with Davis Community Transit, the paratransit that serves our Davis community. So the plan incorporates both of those different transit groups. The plan is required by the Federal Transit Agency or Administration, in order to get federal funding. So we are required to have a plan, an updated plan, in order to get funding for projects. So as a part of the plan, there is a financial plan of how we want to spend money in the future, right? And then also what changes we want to make to the existing transit systems. So fixed route changes, like making actual changes to the service lines, the service plan of Unitrans, fixed changes to potential to DCT, what works well, what's not working, areas for improvement, areas for maximizing efficiencies with DCT, things like that. So we're working on creating a plan for that. So as a part of that, right now we hired a consultant. Their name is TMD, and they are looking at existing conditions. So we're in the very beginning of the plan, and that's why I'm here today, is to tell you that we're doing existing conditions, and as a part of existing conditions, we're also doing a community-wide survey where we want to have information from Unitrans riders, non-Unitrans riders, and DCT riders. We want to understand what's working and where we need improvement. So we actually have three surveys. These surveys are both in paper form, and they're also online using this QR code. And so that's where we are. We're in the information gathering stage. So we're gathering all this information. We're looking at the growth of Davis also, all the new developments that are going in. How is that going to affect transit in the future? The population growth of Davis, UC Davis growing. So we're gathering a lot. And then we're going to take that back, and we're going to come up with some alternatives and recommendations. Then we're going to bring that back to the community in public outreach. Thank you. And after that, we're going to bundle our plan together, and then we'll have to send it to the FTA and get it signed off and get it through City Council. So that's what's happening with our plan.
And those flyers those surveys rather, are available here at the Senior Center.
Yes.
And I've directed our coworkers to reach out to all of our regular riders here who either come, mostly it's folks who come to our movie and our lunch program, but other programs as well, to ensure that their voice is heard in this survey.
Absolutely.
And so,
the surveys are also available at the library, and we've been going out to community events. We were at the Davis Food Co-op Halloween Bash, we were at Discover Davis, and then also there were activities at both the Silo and the Memorial Union where they were targeting their efforts at college students. What we're hearing is that people think that Unitrans is focused on students, and there's a desire to shift or see about having a focus on Davis residents, right? And so I encourage you to fill out the survey, and let us know what you think. Is Unitrans serving you? Is DCT serving you? So that's it. And I'm here if you want to provide me direct feedback to give to the consultant team, or if not, you could fill out the survey. Again, the surveys are out there. They're on the website.
Can we ask questions?
Oh, yeah, we can wait. Is there any public comment? Does anyone have anything to add, a comment or question to Jennifer? Otherwise, we'll go ahead and start discussion from our commission. Okay?
Well, I'm wondering if the survey, I assume the answer is yes, but I want to make sure that the survey and what's being looked into will include, older adult-friendly, people with disabilities-friendly sorts of things like seating at a bus stop or wheelchair or walker accessible. Because I know a lot of stops don't. You can't imagine somebody who had any kind of balance issue getting off the bus down this little hill, or waiting for the bus because there's no place to sit.
Yes.
And sun, we've talked about that many times before too.
Yep, so the city is also doing an ADA accessibility analysis of each of the stops right now. We're in the process. I also oversee our Transportation Commission, which used to be the Unitrans Advisory Commission, and our Bicycle Street Safety Commission. We bundled them together. We have a new commission, Transportation Commission, and that is a part of what we evaluated. We've been adding red curb at our bus stops and working on a plan to make each stop more ADA accessible. We actually added 2 landings to some of the 2 bus stops on Fifth Street recently around K and L Street. So we are trying to address as many of those needs as possible. We are also working with Unitrans on our prioritization list. We have some federal funding that we can spend on bus stop and ADA improvements. So we're working with them on, all right, Unitrans, where do you want us to spend the money? Where's your biggest, largest ridership? And then also looking at the number of complaints that we hear and where can we make the money stretch? Because some stops are more challenging than others in order to address. But absolutely on our radar and also a part of this plan. It also includes bus stops.
Thank you.
Quick question.
Yeah.
Are you guys giving out these surveys on the actual buses?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah,
fantastic.
no, there are door hangers on the buses
Great.
where students can use the QR code and access the survey directly. I believe we have almost 1,000 Unitrans rider surveys so far. We need more of the non-rider and DCT.
Okay.
We need to see those groups be represented in the survey. Something that I forgot to mention is in addition to the survey, we did focus groups with our low-income group, our disabled group, a Chinese group, a group of our aging community group. So we went out and we talked to these groups and said, hey, what's working well? What areas would you like to see improvement in the future? So we're trying to, consider all different types of people and not just be so focused on the students.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
I think that there are, I have some neighbors, for example, who don't have a clue how to ride it. Like, do I need an app? I don't have an app. But, what are the options? And I don't know if advertisements on the side of buses, so if people see them, they can see, can I even ride that?
Yeah,
It doesn't seem accessible, I think, sometimes.
that's great.
We did used to have funding, remember, for travel training. There used to be some grant monies where you could literally have people kind of walk you through the entire
Yeah,
steps
but there are
and
people
stuff,
who just
but
wouldn't even consider that.
they wouldn't even consider that, yeah.
Because it seems too foreign as it is.
Right.
If you have ways to connect us to those people, like Maria and I were saying, we've
Neighbors
done.
night out.
Yeah.
Neighbors night out, that's
Well,
one for sure.
And they do bring the bus out to neighbors' night out parties. Every year they bring out the bus. But if you have a way to connect with those groups, we're all about it. In the past, we've held travel training here at the senior center. Attendance has significantly dropped. We're thinking about that we did it at Rancho Yolo.
Traveling show works better.
And
Bring it
traveling
to the
show and just
community.
bring it to where
Yeah.
people are living.
Yeah.
But if your neighborhood or if anyone is, and I'm opening this up to anyone, if anyone's interested in the city coming and providing information about Unitrans and DCT and just how to get around Davis and different options, we're there.
Could it go out in like your bill?
Oh,
Sometimes we get
Yeah,
information.
Well, I could look at that, yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
that is something that a lot
Because
more
that's,
people, yeah.
one of those things you're paying your bill. What am I getting for this? Oh,
Yeah.
you could ride the bus.
I will say, I was incredibly
Yeah.
impressed with your transportation operation. I moved here from London during the pandemic with a UK driver's license, no other driver's license. Had a hell of a time trying to buy a car. So I started using the bus system here. I called the senior center. They said, come on in, get a free bus pass. And I said, are you kidding? A free bus pass after London? Came in, got the free bus pass, took the bus all over the place, out to the car dealership areas and everything, and finally bought my Jeep that way. But your bus system saved me. It was so efficient, so incredibly useful, that to this day, whenever I see one of the buses, I'm smiling from ear to ear. It was a really positive experience for me,
That's great to hear.
as a person with compromised mobility as well.
That's great. Our bus, pre-pandemic, it used to carry 4 million riders a year. Now it carries 3.5 million riders a year, and it's going up and up and up. So it is heavily used
Right.
and just a great way to move people around town and get them out of their cars. So.
Right. Yeah, no, I'm very impressed with it. I should use it again, but no, I have a Jeep, so I don't.
but if your Jeep breaks down, you're ready to go.
Exactly, thank you.
Well, I would just like to share my comments from previous sessions and with the students here and the new members of the committee. The issue did come up that, from my experience, it was not ADA compliant. And as I said in the meeting, I have an issue with that because if they're in violation of federal law. And that was also discussed at the meeting. And where I live, it's really a weird thing to see for me. But it seems as if someone, wherever you have these bus stops, you know, they just kind of like put them here, put them there, everywhere. And then you have the red curb, but no one's ticketed for parking in the red curb. I've never seen that. And so the issue that I had is that the bus was not able to pull in to pick me up. And so I'm not going another block when the stop is here and you want me in my wheelchair to go meet you down there at the end of the road. And so I wrote the Federal Transportation Authority about this. And this is before I had came to the meeting because I have not always been with a mobility disability. So I can see both sides of the issue. But it's inexcusable because they get money and they're supposed to be compliant because that's in the contracts. And maybe one day you guys can see one of those contracts the way it's written. Also, I think that it would be a good thing to mail the surveys to ask Davis Transit, Community Transit, to mail the surveys to their customers. And then that way, you know, people who have a disability who use Davis Community Transit were sent a survey. Another thing that I had suggested, coming from San Francisco, is that certain things be stated in the primary languages that are spoken here in Davis. And that would also, you know, if it's Chinese, if it's Spanish and English, because they do that in large metropolitan areas like Los Angeles, San Francisco, San Diego. And so that would also help people understand, like, I use that example because there were a couple of elderly Chinese ladies running for the bus, which you would never do. Because I knew a senior that got getting killed by a car who did that. And so I said, maybe you could say something in their language, not to run for the bus because there will be another one. People wouldn't panic so often. And the last thing I will say, I raised the issue with the seating because it's very hot here in the summer, triple digits. And you're not gonna have a lot of ridership from the residents when you've got, you know, 100+ degrees and that sunshine, you know, you're not, you know, 12 anymore where you think the sun is fine. And, but they did put a bench at Pole Line in Cavell, since I was at a meeting, and that's a major stop. But seating is an issue from the environment for everyone. For everyone, you know, if you're a student, if you're a resident, you know, if it's raining, you don't just won't stand there in the rain. You would like some type of shelter, I would think. So it's issues that can pertain to people who have a mobility disability and just overall issues for people who use public transportation.
Great. I appreciate
Yeah.
all those comments. The one about ticketing and parking enforcement, I could follow up on that one. The one about mailing surveys, DCT was, had decided that they were going to call DCT riders and survey them over the phone. They felt that that was a more effective way to reach their audience. They've done mail out surveys before, and they did not get a lot of results back in, so they really wanted to ensure that they would hear the
I never
DC.
received a call from.
I'll check in on where, they're still in the process of making calls. They have not finished that. That should be finished, I think, in 2 weeks. And then as for language, the survey is all in Spanish, simplified Chinese, and in English. All of the marketing material are in also those 3 languages. on the buses, the door hanger is in English and Chinese and in Spanish, so it's for everyone. And we also made a lot of effort to hear from our Chinese community and our Spanish community as a part of those focus groups to find out what's working well and areas for improvement from them. And then your last comment about bus seating at the bus stops, I hear you, and we're making improvements as we can, and we'll continue to put money and make improvements at bus stops. So thank you.
Thank you.
So we are on item B.
All right.
All right.
And then again, the survey's outside if you guys want to take it, and I would really appreciate it if you did.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Jennifer.
Yep, thank you.
Oh, thank you. Keep the Yeti.
Take care.
Fine.
Thank you.
So item B is on page 2 is senior unmet needs discussion. And so Maria's gonna lead that discussion.
And would you like me to read the recommendation part too?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no, it's
The recommendations are to provide feedback to staff on ways to assist seniors with access to resources, including a resource fair and/or educational forums, and updating Davis Senior Resource Guide. Staff will schedule a presentation in January by a representative from the agency on Aging Area 4 to share outcomes from their most recent survey.
All right, and I'll take it from here. So during and since our last meeting, I've heard from various commissioners in interest in addressing unhoused persons and affordable housing. And by the way, I am so sorry, the patio project, and this is something to do with the piping with the fire system, and I did not anticipate that we'd have noise right outside the door. I'll try to, and I know they're on a tight timeline because the fire service. I'm gonna ask very briefly if they could just, if there's any way they can work around our schedule at all, because this is very difficult.
Do that corner.
Hey guys, how much more on the noise than we anticipate? Just started? Well, the reason I ask is because we have a meeting next door and it's hard to hear, and so, we're just wondering if we need to figure out to move the meeting, or
Obviously, we should have made it. The camera for the wall.
there's a lot of drilling happening, and will be? Okay, so let me see, I'll probably see about recessing. I know you guys are on a tight timeline and you have today, so, all right, that's okay. So,
We could just speak up.
you want me to just speak up? I can speak up. All right, so, during and since our last meeting, I've heard from various commissioners an interest in addressing unhoused persons and affordable housing. This is certainly an important unmet need and a priority for the city. The Social Services Commission is explicitly tasked with reviewing and making recommendations on policies, procedures, and standards related to housing affordability across the continuum, from unhoused renters to unhoused persons, to renters, to home buyers, and including affordable housing plans of development proposals. And so I did include in the packet, I managed to omit page 2, but I did include the purpose and function of both the Senior Citizens Commission and the Social Services Commission. And we also, as the Senior Commission, have an important role, as our commission's function and purpose is to review and make recommendations related to city policies and programs affecting seniors, and support city forums, activities, and public outreach events related to senior services. And so within that framework of our function and purpose, we have an opportunity to educate seniors and assist in finding ways for seniors to access these resources, not just on housing, but also transportation, nutrition, other agents, other basically unmet needs. Ways to do this could include, as mentioned before, and is not only though specific to, as I mentioned, the Senior Resource Guide, which is a resource that we update on an annual basis, having educational forums, a resource fair, coordinating with Dana Bailey, the Director of Social Services and Housing, to have education opportunities for seniors. But that might be an approach to take only because the Social Services Commission has dedicated staff and dedicated financial resources and the ability to really truly delve into unhoused folks and housing services. So I just wanted to put that out there, but of course, I want to hear your feedback. And related to that, and just kind of the broader umbrella of advocacy and ways to connect with seniors, I've invited the Agency on Aging Area 4 to come talk about their agency, the services they provide, Legal Services of California, Meals on Wheels, and so many others. And then also then just to focus more on what are the unmet needs in our community and, you know, ways that we can help engage and connect with the public so they know of the resources. That doesn't help, I know, Jeffrey, about the fracturing of resources, which is why, you know, I certainly want to hear from everyone, discussion, you know, ways to improve that, recommendation suggested to improve that. But I do want to note that there is a special commission dedicated to housing and unhoused persons. So with that, I'll give it back to Commissioner Gavin, Chair Gavin, and if we want any public comment, and then open it up for discussion. So.
So is there any public comment on the unmet needs?
Okay.
So, seeing there are none, we're gonna open it up for discussion amongst the commissioners.
You had sent, somebody forwarded a report on homelessness, right?
Yes, go ahead.
So that I thought was really interesting. That was not part of the social services, was it?
Yeah.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
Okay. I thought it was really comprehensive and great, but
Mhm.
there was some areas about aging that weren't in there that probably should be.
Oh, good,
So
okay.
you mentioned educating the public, but I
Yeah.
also think we need to kind of go to other commissioners and say, did you know that older adults are the fastest growing population of homelessness? They're the most at risk when it comes to housing and security because they're most cost burdened.
Mm-hmm.
They can't pay for rent based on their, Social Security.
Mm-hmm.
It has increased 166% for 65 and older between 2017 and 2022. I just taught this to my class last week, so I have my
Wow,
slides.
thank you. Share those, please, or I can share them with the
Yeah,
commission.
I'm happy to.
Thank you.
To share. A lot of this came from a couple of reports that this is kind of a well-known fact within the aging community, that this demographic is seriously at risk.
Okay.
And I think that the approach is going to be tailored somewhat
Okay.
to this population.
Yeah,
And I feel like that's where the expertise, right, comes in, not just to educate the public, but if another commission's working on things like this that really impact our area, then some kind of communication.
what kind of approach would we like to take with that? Because it could be, do you want, would you like Director Bailey to come and listen to hear you directly? Would you like to have representation go to social services during certain times of the year? I mean, there are different avenues that we could possibly approach.
One of the things I think would make sense, though, since that report was made,
Yeah.
it would have been nice if we had had a chance
Yeah.
to see it, so that our input's in that
Yeah.
report, so then that's in the record.
So it's
that's
not after the fact.
It's not after the fact, and that's part of going forward.
Yeah.
That is what people look at.
Yeah.
So I feel like there was a missed opportunity
Mm-hmm.
there.
Mhm.
It
Who
could
did
be,
the report?
what's that?
Who did the report?
Social services?
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not entirely sure.
Well,
The city hired a
The
consultant.
department that was a yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the
Noted,
document we go
yeah.
to, that's kind of the living information going forward.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some gaps. in
There's
there.
some gaps there.
Yeah.
So the report was made by an outside consultant?
Well, it was under the direction, though,
Of
of the
city
city staff.
Yeah,
Okay.
and there were people from Davis on it. I mean,
Yeah,
I recognize some of the names. I don't even think, some of them weren't commissioners, they were just members.
Providers.
At large.
There were a lot of
Members at large,
homelessness
people who were
service providers
involved with
that were
what is
included
it
in
called?
the creation of it.
The Davis, what is it called, the Davis homeless, I forget the
The
name of
task
that.
force.
Davis Housing Alliance?
Yeah, that. something like that,
Oh,
Davis.
okay, that would be Martha.
Community
But
meetings.
there were some of those folks, when I tracked down names to try to see where that came from. I mean, it really was nice, but
Mhm.
in terms of from my lens,
Yeah,
I feel like we
there were
could have
major
made it
gaps in
better.
that. Yeah.
And I think also what may not be there, I have not seen the report, is that when Sacramento does its sweeps of the
Yeah.
unhoused population,
Oh,
some of them come here.
oh.
You know, so I think you'll see an uptick in people who are unhoused in Davis that
Huh.
you may not normally see. Because I see things like, I haven't seen that person before, because those who are unhoused, you've kind of seen them here and there. But I've talked with a neighbor about that, and she's noticed it as well, that there is an uptick in more people who will come here. And they network, and so if there are resources here, that's another way that they will come. But I'm curious about what's going on in Yellow County as a whole, in more rural parts, such as Winters and
Dixon.
Dixon Salina.
Dixon Saloni,
But
but still,
technically,
yeah, yeah,
in terms of housing, they are part of the area
Yeah.
because of the housing authority. But I can't think of them right now, but.
Knights
yeah.
Landing,
Yeah.
Dunnigan.
Up north
Yeah,
and-
I hear you.
and-
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and I think that there should be outreach in those
Mhm.
communities
Mm-hmm.
because they're
Underserved.
they're underserved, and I don't know if Yellow Bus goes out there anymore. That was something we talked about a while ago.
Hmm.
When I say a while, I mean like maybe 2 years ago. And that's, the former mayor, Bruce, I was at one of the meetings that he had attended. And we were talking about public transportation. And, you know, because you're stranded, if you don't have a car, you're stranded.
Mm-hmm.
And that public housing, I'm not from here, so I don't know these names, but
Mm-hmm.
there used to be a bus, the 220, and it went to Vacaville. But there's a public housing right there, I think it's Winter,
Mm-hmm.
is it? It's on the outskirts. And it went through there, and we were talking about, you know, because of the pandemic, people stranded.
Yeah.
How do they get to work? How do they get to the supermarket and things like that? So there are more people that could be added in addition to the people who come over here because of what they're doing in Sacramento.
Yeah, and it's really hard to get numbers. I mean, they had some estimates there, but they jumped around a lot. And you don't know if that's a trend or if that's just how counting went because of something in a neighboring community or whatever. I think it's really hard
Mm-hmm.
to really get a handle on that. It's important to bring in the mental health clinicians that are serving those populations because they may have a better idea.
Mm-hmm.
That was the other part of the report that could have been a little stronger, is what to do with. Obviously, housing first is the most important
Mhm.
thing, right? But
Mhm.
if you don't have those, they mentioned the wraparound services, but if you don't have some of those in place, I didn't hear a lot about how that would happen, I
Okay.
guess, in terms of mental health and substance
Mhm.
use. Because it has to be to this area, not
Yep.
in general.
Mm-hmm.
And that, you know, that's a question mark in my mind, and I think it gets to what you were saying earlier too, about one stop, right? Wouldn't it be nice if we had one clearinghouse or one place for people to go as a resource to
Mhm.
know how to get help?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what that would look like here.
It's still fractured a bit because we have the county building next
Right.
door that has a lot more resources
Right.
now. But that's certainly not comprehensive,
Yeah.
and certain things are Davis specific.
Some things are city,
They don't
some
do
City
housing.
specific, and they don't do housing.
They don't do housing.
The biggest.
No,
They
I'm
don't?
hearing Jeffrey, I was just repeating what you said, so,
They don't do housing, the county?
Over here? No.
Oh, you mean, I see what you mean. It's the
Okay.
county, but that's not where they do
Yeah.
county housing. Got it.
That's another
Yeah.
part of having a centralized,
Yes.
yeah, because the city has their housing, county has, county housing.
It's really confusing to know where to go.
Yeah, Yeah, and oftentimes we receive a comprehensive list of affordable housing, and then it's further, subsets of whether it's senior, exactly. And then you have to call each and every one of those numbers because each one is managed differently.
Here's the thing, all the places on here do low income.
Yeah.
25 of them do very low income,
Mm-hmm.
which is
Yeah.
basically what you run into. And we're the Senior Citizens Commission, so when I talk about people needing services, I'm talking about age 65 plus.
Mm-hmm.
Because it turns out to be a special demographic. If you're homeless and you're 65 plus and you don't have a car, you're probably having medical conditions that aren't being taken care of. I know a lot of these people, because of their age and their medical conditions, they won't go to a shelter because they won't share the whole thing. They need a little privacy, so they need a room to themselves. So if you build a shelter, have some separate rooms. But also, if you have a shelter, you want all the services. When somebody comes there, you want all of the services to be available in one place. The other thing, going through this affordable rental housing in Davis, like I said, there's 25 places that will take very low income.
Mm-hmm.
They have waiting lists.
2 to 10 years and the waiting lists are often closed,
when
you don't even know
yeah.
how long they
When
are.
you go to apply, you put it at the bottom of the list, but if you have a Section 8 voucher, you're at the top of the list. So to get Section 8 voucher in Yolo County is Yolo County Housing. They haven't taken a new application for Section 8 for 2 years.
Yeah.
Right,
They're basically closed.
right.
So,
Yeah, there's no
Well,
housing.
Yeah,
actually, they
there's
took
no-
applications last year.
oh, they did?
Yes,
Well,
they
they
did.
told me 2 years.
Well, I kind of ride them a little bit.
But-
so you say that word.
They're not doing new
But-
applications.
But on that note, and given what you just said, and one of the things I used to harp on is what are they doing? And having them come to the meeting, because the Housing Choice Voucher Program, which is what it is in Section 8 of the Federal Manual. That's why they call it that, of the Housing Manual. It's very broad. It's very, most people don't know that there's like 42 programs that are Section 8.
Yeah.
Just like there's like 92 for Medi-Cal that you can, you don't have to be on public assistance to get Medi-Cal. A lot of people think that, and I had the executive director's book, so I knew that. But with Section 8, because I have the training manual, they have vouchers for the demographic of seniors. And I was curious to know how many vouchers exist in Yolo County that are for seniors. And then from that, and then other programs, they have vouchers for people with specific terminal illnesses like cancer or AIDS or whatever. Those are other vouchers. So it's not just one type of a housing choice voucher. There are multiple programs there, and what are they doing and advocating for given the demographics of their population?
Were you able to find out how many vouchers they had for
Well, that
senior?
they don't. I would like to know that, how many are they using? And they will not go into the area of discretionary funds, but I know that does exist because there has to be, well, you're doing a budget, anything can happen. And also, people can be displaced because of a natural disaster. You know, up here, we have a lot of fires or what have you. So, and once again, that's a whole nother different category. So, this is, I used to be an advocate in San Francisco. So some of this I already knew, even though sometimes they may want to challenge me, which is not a good thing. But, because I can pull it from somewhere or call somebody in Washington DC and they'll send it to me. But it's just, the more you know, the more empowered you are. And so there are different categories for these housing vouchers. And I would just like to know what their categories are and where is the highest demand.
Is that something we can direct to Director Bailey, for Dana Bailey?
Or she may ask.
She may be the, I mean, she would certainly have more clout and connection, you know, for certain, since she's having to coordinate with, you know, various housing bodies.
And also that would be something that a county supervisor should want to know, because that's the board
That's another
that
option.
oversees, that's the board that oversees them.
It could be something
It's
through
the housing commission,
Lucas
it's the board of supervisors, the housing commissioners, and then you have your local city council, because each of the large cities, like Davis, Winters, West Sacramento, Woodland, has a council member that is a housing commissioner. So this is something I would think they should already have in their binder in regards to the housing authority. You know, they should know some of these, have an answer to some of these questions. But I would just like to, you know, see a breakdown of the different categories of these vouchers that they have for different groups.
Well, if you go to Yolo County Housing,
Mm-hmm.
or you get these vouchers,
Mm-hmm.
they should be aware, educated on all these different programs.
Well, I agree with you about that.
So I mean, to
I agree with you about that. But if
talk
they,
to them and they tell
if
you, oh, we
they're-
haven't taken an application in 2
Well, that's
years,
not
and
true.
we don't know when we're ever gonna take any more applications.
well, that's not
This is what they say.
I don't doubt that, you know, but, you know, knowing is half the battle.
So,
That was in
so
jail.
Yolo County Housing should bring
One
all
of
these,
my kids got that.
all these separate programs.
I understand, I agree with you, but if you don't know what you don't know. And if they don't think you know, and I'm gonna say this night, and I'm gonna stop. When I first met them, because I almost became a double amputee, and I went there, and I asked the ADA coordinator 16 specific questions, 1, 2, 3. She looked at me and she went to her office. She said, I'll be back in a minute. And she came out of the office. She said, do you need a voucher right now? You know, it's like, she did. You know, like this lady, I don't know where she's from, but she knows what she's talking about. Let me get her out of here.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, there's different categories for different housing vouchers, you know, and because California, and it gets to be an issue when you're the only one who's always asking the question, because, you know, you get hammered all the time. You nail the sticks out. But California received the most money from the Trump administration to house the unhoused. Billions of dollars came through here. And people need to ask questions about what happened with the money and where are these vouchers? Where's the money that was given for the vouchers?
And where's
Period.
the housing?
Where's the money?
Where's the housing?
You know, where's the beef? Where's the money?
Yeah.
You know, why can't I have one? Because you got X amount of dollars. You know, when you start doing things like that, people are, well, let me take care of them right now. Right now. Get them out of here. You know, you shouldn't have to do that.
You can't expect the people applying, they're not gonna know about all these.
I
different-
understand that, and it comes back to what you, it comes back to two things. Wraparound services being available and advocates.
Yeah.
Advocates who know these things and who can go with you and say, this is X, Y, Z, this is what, you're right about that. That advocacy is an issue in Yellow County. I mean, because in San Francisco, they had 1,000 nonprofits. You know, that's how people get their forgivable loan paid. It is. They're working with nonprofits, and you know, everybody can have an advocate, but and they can, you know, this is what HUD says. What are you doing? You know, you're not doing this. Well, why not? And so it makes a difference when you have someone who can advocate on your behalf and who's not connected to the system. So they don't have to fear retribution. They're independent of the system, but they can advocate on your behalf. That is very important, and I have always seen that lacking in Davis and in Yellow County. And, you know, I think that's another issue for another day, but it's a lack of advocacy. But that's something maybe some instructors at the university can work with students about.
Something too, under that umbrella topic of just another critical unmet need. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I believe Yellow County not only is one of the smallest counties in California, but it's also the poorest county. I see us at the very, very bottom of all the counties. I believe there are like 57 counties in California, and Yellow is last. So we have the least money, we have the smallest population, and so our resources here are so compromised. I do some work with CommuniCare in our community, and I'm always hearing from them just how challenging it is because of the poverty level that we have in our county, and the amount of resources is so minuscule compared even, you know, to Solano County, our nearest neighbor. I'm not excusing that, but it is certainly a reality of our situation.
Advocacy. And are there any more comments?
Well, this topic is to be continued, of course, and it can't undo what has already passed as far as, you know, city choices and whatnot. But moving forward, and this is something maybe to just let percolate for our next meeting, when we have this topic again of unmet needs and what people brought up in ways that maybe this commission, a representative from this commission, or certain ways that we can keep that connection closer with social services perhaps, as a way to stay ahead of things rather than an afterthought, is, you know, one way.
Yeah, it's great. I think it's super to have it on the agenda.
Yeah, so we'll keep it there for sure.
Excellent.
Agency on Aging is coming, and then this discussion will continue. So, and thank you so much, everyone, for your valuable feedback on this topic. It's definitely going to be shared, so, up the chain. And,
So
let's see.
we're on C, appointment of representative for the Yellow County Commission on Aging for January through June of next year. The commissioners will nominate and vote on a representative to the YCCA. The commission typically meets every first Wednesday at 9 a.m. next door to the senior center at 600 8th Street, room 101. The next meeting is December the 4th. Commissioners who have been appointed in this role typically give a brief verbal or written summary of the meeting on issues that can or will affect Davis residents. For those of you who are not familiar with the commission, I'll provide a brief description. Upon request of the Board of Supervisors, this commission reviews and makes recommendations on specific issues and policy questions, as well as state and federal legislation and regulations regarding CDA, disabled or other adults needing protection of authority and state. This commission serves as the county's policy liaison to the Area 4 Agency on Aging. Reviews, considerations, develops, and advances plans for board supervisors, consideration for better coordination of county resources devoted to the aged, disabled, or other adults needing the protection of authority and state. Are there any, would someone like to volunteer?
I would say it's interesting. I did it, I don't know, a couple of years, I think. And it's interesting to see what happens across the county and the different programs people are doing and the ideas they have and so forth. So it's kind of fun.
You do have to be there physically, so they do have a Zoom option, but that's for people to passively watch and enter in. But I think if you're part of the board, you do have to be there in person. But it is
Yeah, I was at their
typically next
last
door.
meeting.
Yeah, and this isn't so. The timeline for this is only through June 2025, and the reason being is we wanted to get on the fiscal year schedule that other commissions are on for all these various bodies. That also applies to, you know, the commission chair and co-chair and so on and so forth. So it's just trying to reset it, and that also means you're not committed for a long time. And of course, it is very interesting, but it's a matter of your availability. And if you have to think about things or look back at your schedule and see if it's available, you don't have to make a decision right now.
It's okay, I'll do it.
You'll want to do, okay. In that case, go ahead, Ms. Gavin. Jeff.
Jeffrey Stallnick?
Mhm.
So Jeffrey Stallnick has so graciously volunteered to be on the Agency for Aging. So, is there a motion?
So moved.
Okay, I'll second.
I was just gonna say I'll second.
All in favor?
Okay.
Aye.
Anyone who opposes? Any abstentions? The motion so passes.
All right.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Yay. Very good.
And
So we can go
D,
December 4th then, right?
Yeah, that's right.
and D
On board.
is, item D, outreach to senior housing committees for 2025.
Communities.
Communities, thank you. Commission Liaison Maria Lucchese will introduce this topic. Recommendation, action item. Staff will provide a list of locations to consider for off-site meetings. Commissioners may determine tentative dates and locations.
All right, so at the very end of your packet is a list. I didn't start it from inception, but just a more recent list of off-site meetings. So basically what it means, an off-site meeting is our opportunity as commissioners to go out to seniors in their senior community. And it's typically a pared down agenda, so we'll have, you know, approval of the agenda, we'll have a very brief overview. Commissioners will often introduce themselves and share their passion for any specific topics. We'll also typically go over the senior center, an overview of the services and programs that we provide. But then most importantly, the agenda is short so that we can so that members of the public, and it's open to everyone, not just the persons who are at that senior housing community. Just as every commission meeting, they are all fully open to the public. For folks to express their concerns and or have their questions answered. And so that's basically in a nutshell. We've done one or two a year. There was obviously a large gap there from COVID. We started back up again. Our last one was 2023 Galileo Place, which is the respite center for the YOLO Cares, which is hospice and Citizens Who Cares merged together. And it's just wherever the commission would like to go to basically hear feedback from the community. And it has been senior housing, but it can be broader than that. So I put down where we have been, but it doesn't limit us. We can certainly go to a housing that's not age restricted or limited, if you'd like. And certainly there'll be seniors there and or families who are helping seniors. So no matter what, it'll be beneficial. So this is something just to look at and review, and if you'd like to make a recommendation of where we could consider going in the new year, I would say no sooner than March, just because oftentimes we'll have a subcommittee appointed to just kind of, creating the PowerPoint, although we don't need to, but give ample time for whatever the community is to be ready and help with outreach so we can ensure a good audience. And again, not just from that community, but just community at large. And we can, and also we want to wait until maybe the weather's better so that we do have, encourage more participation. So maybe March would that be something that you consider, March, and then maybe in January we can decide, if folks have a very strong feeling about what community we'd like to visit first. And it's on the regular, it's not an additional meeting, it's part of the regular commission meeting. So we're not asking you to come or commit to a second thing from your regular schedule.
It's a great list, Maria, that you've put together, Sorry. And I would say, because we're the senior commission, if I may, we should stick with senior places.
Yeah.
I want to honor our senior community, and that's why I joined the commission. So I would like to see us stick with places that are focused on seniors and on the senior population. I happen to live at Rancho Yolo. I'm happy to see that they're on here twice. There are over 600 seniors there. So that might be a good place to start. And I also happen to think the weather right now is perfect.
Oh.
The colder the better. It's the heat that's dreadful.
Yeah.
I don't see the university
You're
senior
right.
housing.
URC has been in there, but they haven't been there within that time frame.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I know there's a
I don't
ton
know.
of,
I mean, I have
of seniors over there.
Yeah. Yeah. So, would we like to
Yeah,
start
great
with?
list.
We'd like to
I
start
didn't
with.
get that list, Maria.
It's not on your very back page.
No. Oh, it's here, I apologize.
Oh, okay, good. Absolutely.
Eleanor Roosevelt's a good sized one. We haven't done that just once.
Okay.
So that's one. I noticed that you didn't write down the number of people who attended. Is that because?
Oh,
You
members
didn't
of
have
the
it?
public at the far corner, at the far.
Yeah, for this one. it just
Oh, I
says-
didn't have it for that
That's
one,
okay.
and I didn't have a video either to check.
That's
So,
fine. That's
yeah,
fine.
that one was somehow in the minutes. If it wasn't reflected in there, maybe, yeah.
That's fine.
Well,
Yeah.
It looks like the major attendance was at the meetings at Rancho Yola.
Yeah,
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 because there are 600 seniors there.
yeah.
And less and less are they low income, unfortunately. But people are very interested in senior services. So that's a very good place to go for sure. And we have an incredible clubhouse there, really big, looks kind of Frank Lloyd Wright. It's fantastic. And they can hold, probably 140 people.
Wow.
We don't know how many attended the Eleanor Roosevelt. That's all.
Yeah,
So that's
that's
why
right.
it's a good sized place.
Yes, yeah.
And then I think Rancho Yola has been well represented on this board because we had
Elizabeth.
yeah. So we were
She's
well informed.
super
It's really great.
active.
Our
Yeah.
former
Yeah.
commissioner and chair, yes, yes.
Which was great.
Was she your chair as well?
She
I knew
was.
She was on your commission. I didn't
Oh.
know she was your chair.
Yeah,
She's a really strong advocate in our community for
Yeah.
seniors.
She's great.
mm-hmm.
Good.
Well, and of course, we can do 2 to 3 a year. What would people like to do?
Oh, I'd love for us to do offsite all the time. I think it's a really good advocacy for the senior commission, and I think it's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Get out and about and meet people, because those people aren't going to come to us. I just think they are not. Unless it's really super pressing, awful situation, we're probably not going to hear from them. But I would love for us to have all of our meetings in the community, and we have enough places to do it. Let's do it.
Mm-hmm. I think that logistically it'd be very challenging. Also with parking sometimes, there are some issues with having all of our meetings off-site, but we could start with 2, 3, 4, and then if we decide we want to keep building up, But you know,
We
that's
also
up to the
don't do-
commission to decide, but.
We also don't do deep dives into things either when we're.
Oh, that is a good point, where when we have a deep dive in something that's time sensitive, climate action adaptation plan
requires a
or
lot of-
transportation.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
cause we're there to ensure that their voices are heard.
Right.
It ends up taking a lot of the agenda time and we
That
don't
doesn't
end
mean
up.
we can't do it more than
No,
once.
no.
Maybe every other.
Yeah.
How about every other?
Yeah.
You know, one on site, one at the senior center, one off site, one at the senior center, one off
I don't
site.
know if that's easy for others to get to.
Rotate.
Yeah. How would people feel about, cause I think we could start with we could start with scheduling 2 and then feel what that's like and just understand what that's like, and then certainly reevaluate our schedule.
Well, I'm happy to give anybody a lift.
I think, I'm in favor of starting too.
Okay. Anyone else? Share.
Sounds good.
Okay. Should we start it with the first one being in March? Do we want to decide on which location to start with in March, or do you want to think about it and come back in January? Because we still have time.
Let's go to Rancho Yola. We have tons of parking.
Oh, yeah. Oh, go ahead. Commissioners, go ahead.
Well, let's think about that. When we come back in January, we would have had time to look all of them up on the computer.
Okay. Well, we have a resounding, I support Rancho Yolo, and I have a representative there, so we know that's gonna work out fine.
Right.
So that's at least we can make that one of the places.
I'll
And-
coordinate with Elizabeth.
And just, yeah, and see where the rest of the commission body's at. We do have a couple people who aren't here today who couldn't make it to the meeting, and so we can get their feedback as well. Okay, so TBD
Yeah.
at this point? Okay, but we can have a tentative date for March, and that also could factor in to where we start, because ERC might be available or some other place that we decide, and then, Rancho Yolo may have something going in March, and maybe a different month might work out better, so, and or other places. So, okay, I'll go ahead and do that.
And then, item 6, upcoming agenda topic,
Yes.
Agency on Aging Area 4, Legal Services of Northern California.
Anyone else have an upcoming agenda topic? So we now have 2, the Agency on Aging, Area 4, but within the umbrella of unmet need, under the umbrella of unmet needs. And I put in Legal Services of Northern California. Again, we have the outreach to senior communities and deciding, we can decide for the year. Or we can just decide for the next 6 months what we want to do. Is there anything else at this point?
I think that one of the problems we have in Davis is that everything is full.
Everything is full?
Everything is full. All the housing, it's like, there's no openings.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that's probably needed is to develop housing for seniors.
I know, and you're so soft-spoken, I'm so sorry.
I was talking to Marcia about it. There are huge tracts of empty land in Davis, and I'm talking acres. One of the things of building new housing is you have NIMBY, not in my backyard.
Right.
I think the major complaint about that is if you build up, you're blocking. So these huge tracts of land in Davis, if you want to build tiny homes, funding to do that, it costs $100,000 to build a tiny home, which is very inexpensive actually. And the financing for those comes from the state and from HUD. So you can get most of that building taken care of, not coming out of, unrealized funding somewhere. It's already in place. The problem is these huge tracts of land is being able to use them.
Yeah.
Mhm.
of zoning, it's a matter of who owns this.
Well, and in Davis, we have to approve housing developments that are more than a certain number of,
Yeah.
right? They go on a referendum to the
Well,
public.
I was talking at our last meeting, there are approximately 40 senior citizens that are homeless, that aren't getting service. These tracts of land are so large, you could build 40 tiny houses on them and even have parking. So people won't be complaining, they actually look very nice. But I brought this up with the Social Services Commission, the last meeting, the Yolo County Commission on Aging. So I don't know if they've done anything about it. I'll find out.
I think, there was a lecture, maybe like 2 years ago, with, this one lady, her father wrote the book Color of Law. He's one of the law professors at Berkeley. And she was talking about, well, the book deals with the federal government involvement in housing discrimination against Black people. That's what the book is basically about. But she had talked about what some cities had done is they set aside tracts as land trusts, and only affordable housing could be built on these land trusts. And I think, given what you're saying, Jeffrey, I think it may have changed with Merced coming into the university system, but I think Davis has the most land that's not developed in the UC system. And I think that is something that the cities should talk with the university about in terms of being a good neighbor. And some of this housing, I think, should be mixed use. I think it should be, I think you may have, like your graduate students in the housing, because some of them can have families. And also, and you would have regular residents, but I think mixed-use housing is one idea to look at as opposed to, when you say affordable housing, that's a broad term, but, you know, people think Section 8. And so, and the university system has a $5 billion portfolio with BlackRock, and that was in paper. And so they have money, even though their students may be having housing issues. And they are some of the owners of apartment complexes near their universities. And people, and the students don't realize that, you know. And so the politics of it all is where you find all this stuff out because of public records disclosures. And the UC system is a state university system. It doesn't think it is, but it really is. But, so it gets to be interesting, and, you know, maybe someone would ask the university in a public records request, how much property do they own around this area in Yolo County? Because that might have to be a referendum because it's state property. And, you know, and this governor is talking about how supportive he is of affordable housing. Well, let's find out.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And then I just want to lastly comment on legal services of Northern California. I don't understand why there is no legal clinic with the university. I don't think it's, in my opinion, it's a good idea to have, in my opinion, legal services has a monopoly on a lot of things that are quote unquote legal. but you have a law school and you have students attending that law school. And unlike other universities, they do not have law clinics that can deal with geriatric issues, some of the issues we discussed here today. They can deal with specifically disabled issues, because these policies and programs give students practical skills that they can put on their resume. And they don't, or housing issues that may come up. You know, they need to start getting on the practical stuff and not just so much. They advertise on the bus that, oh, you can intern with somebody at the Capitol, yippee-ki-yay. But everybody is not into politics, you know, and so just being able to do something throughout Yolo County and giving you practical skills, especially at this time, because people are having a second thought on hiring millennials for a lack of practicals, because that was in the paper too.
Thank you.
Maria, would that be something as part of the Davis Senior Resource Guide, is that we could learn more about legal clinics and other kinds of, what else is available besides legal services of Northern California?
Yeah, and you're asking were you thinking a commissioner would resource all the legal service offerings available, or?
I didn't know how you gathered the information for the
So, yeah.
Senior Resource Guide.
Volunteers. I mean, we
Okay.
have this structure, but it's basically an 12-page document with the most basic information of, you know, topics, clothing, Davis Community Meals, and, you know, communication, consumer problems, advocacy, alcohol, drug, so on and so forth. So it's not the most comprehensive. The Yolo Healthy Aging Alliance online, and of course 211 has a more comprehensive, but we wanted to have people with some kind of framework for those folks who really prefer, you know, a hard copy document. But it's not the most comprehensive, and certainly we could add to, you know, if somebody would like to consider that, we can agendize it for the next month to talk about it more later, but at another meeting. But we certainly could use support on this to beef it up, certainly.
Yeah, I would join that.
Okay.
That cause.
So
Is that
we'll talk-
available? I would love one of those. Or
Yes.
can I download it online?
Yes,
Oh, thank
and
you so much.
yes, and yes.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
I-
agendize it for.
I'd be happy to be involved with this, Maria.
Yeah. So we'll talk about it, we'll talk about that, the senior resource guide.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, thank you, Liz. Agendize. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. And so, if there are no further comments, our next meeting date is January 14th.
Mhm.
And otherwise, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope you do well on your finals and happy holidays.
Yeah.
How many commissions are you visiting?
Just this one for now, we might have one in the first one.
Do you have
Well, we
questions?
are honored.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us.